Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are the Harvard Federal Credit Union, and this is Estate Planning Basics. A little housekeeping as we get started. This is the community engagement team. So my name is Terrence Brazil. I'm a community engagement specialist here at the Harvard Federal Credit Union. I'm joined by my colleague Ty Koppelson, who's also a CCUFC. What that means is we are certified credit union financial counselors, and that just means we are here to support, we're here to help, and if you have any questions at all, please use the Q&A feature and ask us. And as we get into questions, I do want to talk about today's webinar. So we will be reducing all background noise, and that means if you are having lunch, if you are entertaining, whatever you're doing, it's completely okay. No need to have any concerns. Please engage with us in any way that you can. And if you do have questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature. And if Please let me know if that's working by letting us know where you are joining us from today. We'd love to hear and see where our members are from, and we always find out that they are all over the nation. So give that Q&A a test and let me know where you're joining us from. Also, this presentation will be recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel to rewatch at any point in time. Actually, all of our webinars will be recorded and are recorded. So if you missed anything throughout the year, please feel free to jump onto our YouTube page and you'll see anything and everything. And for our post-workshop survey, please take our survey. We love the feedback that we receive, and we do use it. We read all the information. We use it so that way we can improve the quality of our presentations. And we truly, genuinely, we love seeing the feedback because it helps us deliver better quality value to you, our members. Now, a little bit of information about Harvard FCU. We are not for-profit banking. And what that means is we are community focused, where we exist to serve our membership in any capacity that they would like us to serve them, whether that is higher interest rates on savings accounts or lower interest rates on loans. We strive to deliver to be good corporate citizens, as well as products and services. We do have free access to ATMs nationwide. We actually go as far as to say we will refund any and all ATM fees that you incur using an ATM that is outside of our network. And taking that a step further, we are accessible anywhere through co-op shared branching. And what that means is if you happen to be outside of the Cambridge, Somerville, Boston area, and you can have access to another credit union, you can participate and bank with them just like you're banking with us. And one last thing, once a member, always a member, which means your membership extends to you and your family. And if you happen to leave the Harvard community at some point, that is totally okay. Your membership will stay with you, and you are free to extend that to above you, either grandparents, parents, uncles, aunts. That's totally okay. Anyone below you, children, spouses, and whatnot. We are a community here, and we love to have you join. So, without any further ado, I'm going to kick it over to today's presenters, which is Natalie Crawford, Chief Revenue Officer at Gentreo, and Jake Murphy, Director of Business Development.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. We're very happy to be here. As Terrence said, I am Natalie Crawford, the Chief Revenue Officer at Gentreo, and I'm joined by Jake Murphy, our Director of Business Development. Uh, Thanks once again, Harvard FCU, for hosting today's webinar, and for the Beth Israel members who've joined. We genuinely appreciate the partnership, and we're glad you're here. Today is truly Estate Planning 101. In plain language, no legal jargon, no scare tactics. At Gentrio, we understand life's milestones, and we believe that life and estate planning should be simple. It should be accessible and something that you can actually finish. Our goal is to make estate planning feel approachable and to help you take the next step for yourself and for your family. Let me frame this right up front as well. Estate planning is about protecting your choices. It's about who can speak for you, about protecting the people that you love when life gets unpredictable, and protecting your ability to have your wishes honored, especially in an emergency. One quick housekeeping note, we're going to throw a lot of information at you today. So again, just as a reminder, please drop your questions in the chat as we go. Jake and the Harvard team are going to keep an eye on those, and we'll have time, as they mentioned, for Q&A at the end. All right, let's jump in. First off, as a member of Harvard Federal
Oh,
Credit
sorry.
Union, you have access to Gentreo as a member benefit. You can create one document or a full estate plan. You can update your documents at any time. You will have access to our Life Safe. That's a secure digital vault. And that's a huge part of what makes this practical for real life. The way to access the benefit is simple. Use the link that you see there on your screen, gentreo.com, Harvard backslash, I'm sorry, gentreo.com backslash Harvard FCU. Most people don't avoid estate planning because they don't care. They avoid it because it feels overwhelming. So, what we're going to talk about today and hope that you take away is that Gentreo is really here to partner with you through every life milestone and make protecting what matters most easy for you. So, all right, again, let's talk about what estate planning protects. When people think about estate planning, often they think about what happens when I'm gone. But a strong plan is just as much about what happens when you're living, while you're living. Estate planning protects children, your assets, healthcare choices, and it matters starting at age 18. Estate planning is relevant the moment you become a legal adult, and it keeps mattering through every life stage: single, married, kids, caring for aging parents, retirement, all of it. Let's move on to how estate planning helps. It helps you appoint guardians for your minor children, helps ensure smooth transfer of assets, and reduces the potential for family conflict or disputes. This is really about clarity and making your choices known so your family isn't guessing in a crisis. When a family doesn't have clarity, decisions get delayed, emotions run high, and sometimes courts can get involved. The bottom line is that paperwork prevents heartbreak. Estate planning does more than just say who gets what when you pass away. It starts protecting you and your loved ones while you're living. So when those life milestones happen, marriage, the birth or adoption of a child, a major medical crisis, divorce, Gentrio's here to support you through all of it. It also prepares your family. Estate planning also prepares your family so that everyone knows what your choices are and if and when, what your choices are, I'm sorry, if and when something happens. It's important to note that each spouse or partner needs their own estate plan. Even in strong marriages and relationships, you still need your own healthcare proxy, your own will, your own power of attorney. You may feel and operate of one mind, but the law treats you as two separate individuals. So it's vitally important that each spouse or partner has their own plan, their own documents. What happens if you don't have a plan? The sad and unfortunate reality is that 80% of Americans don't have an estate plan, not because they don't care, but because they think it's expensive or complicated or that it can wait. And when people don't have a plan, they don't just risk their assets, they risk losing their choice, losing choices over your wishes. Even for people who do have documents, a plan or a plan, life changes. As we said earlier, marriages, divorce, new children, a move, a new job. You take on caring for your aging parents. When those things happen, when those milestones occur, plans need updating. The goal isn't perfection or simply protection, it's getting protected and keeping the plan current. Those barriers that you worry about, is it expensive? Is it complicated? It's going to be time consuming. Gentrio exists to remove those barriers. So think of it like TurboTax for estate planning, where you're guided step by step. What we're going to do now is walk through the core documents. We'll talk about what they do, when they matter, what decisions they help you make. And so we're gonna cover a number of things. So we'll go ahead and start diving in now into the documents themselves. Wills, healthcare proxies, powers of attorney, trusts, Plus, for all of our pet lovers like me, pet planning tools, these are the major building blocks that we're going to cover. So let's go ahead and take a look at the will. A will is the document most people recognize. It takes effect after you pass away and helps your family understand key decisions, especially if you have children. It names guardians, directs assets, and protects, as I said, your wishes. For parents, the first time both spouses travel together, or the first time you're thinking, if something happens to us, who would raise our kids? That's often the trigger to do a will. Um, and so, again, think of it as that document that lets you name the guardian, the backup guardian. It can also cover gifts to loved ones, and even charitable gifts. The healthcare proxy allows someone to speak for you if you can't speak for yourself. It's about medical decision making. Um, so, again, who can speak for you and what your preferences are. One of the reasons our Gentreo founders care so deeply about this is really a personal story. Their family had done estate planning, and later their father developed Alzheimer's. Over time, he lost the ability to clearly communicate. And near the end of his life, when doctors asked the family what to do, they weren't forced to guess or argue in a hospital hallway. They could say, this is what he wanted. The documents let the family uphold his choices, his wishes, when he could no longer speak for himself. And here's a big one for families with college age kids or young adults. Once your child turns 18, you may not be able to speak to their doctors or their care providers or access their medical information without the proper authorization. So remember, I mentioned before, estate and life planning begins when you become a legal adult. So, for your adult child, having a healthcare proxy or HIPAA permissions can be incredibly important for those adult children, too. Let's look at the power of attorney now. This is about the financial and legal decision making. Who can act on your behalf when you cannot? It allows someone that you trust to manage finances if you can't. Powers of attorney can be limited by scope or time and cover things like paying bills, handling banking, dealing with taxes, managing property, real life stuff that doesn't stop just because someone is ill or recovering. And it's a powerful, powerful piece. So the choice of who you name and how you structure it really matters. Another tool is trusts. Trusts are often used to simplify how assets transfer. Trusts help avoid probate and maintain privacy depending on your situation and manage complexity. Not everyone's going to need a trust, but many families benefit from understanding when it's a fit, especially if you own property, have complexity, or want more control over timing and distribution of your assets. And if you ever do a trust, remember that creating it is just the first step. Funding it is step two, and a trust only works as intended when assets are titled properly. So, again, funding the trust is what makes it work. We also do pet trusts. Uh, Pet trusts allow you to name a caregiver and provider instructions for your pet. Gentreo supports these because for us, pets are family, but the legal system doesn't always treat them that way. You can't leave money directly to a pet, for example. So a pet trust helps you document who will care for your pet, how that care should happen, and how funds should be used for that care. We also do powers of attorney for pet care. Um, This one also came from a real life situation in the founders circle. A service member was deployed, and the person who was caring for his dog could not authorize a major veterinary procedure without permission. They couldn't contact him quickly, and the treatment unfortunately was delayed for that pet. So, a pet care power of attorney can prevent that type of delay. Someone you trust can act quickly with the limits that you define. So you want to use these to prevent delays in emergency veterinary care. And again, you decide who can act and how much they can spend, for example. Gentreo covers the three big stages of life and estate planning. So, one, you've got to create the documents. So, we help with creation of those. Two, secure storage of the documents in our LifeSafe, the digital vault. And then secure sharing of those documents. So, this is the big point, right? An estate plan that nobody knows about or how to access is ineffective. So sharing your plan with loved ones is crucial, and the digital vault allows you to share your documents so they're just a few clicks away. Another reason that the founders built the digital vault is because their family lived the chaos of where's the information. Their parents were in another state, and when the healthcare crisis happened, strokes, hospitalizations, time mattered. Instead of you or loved ones searching for a notebook or scraps of paper, you and they can access the pertinent documents immediately in one secure place. And importantly, you can control who sees what. You can share only pet information with a neighbor and then share the full documents and full plan with a spouse or partner or adult children. Again, you choose who accesses what, and the access is secure. An estate plan that nobody can find is useless. So the digital vault keeps these documents accessible and secure. And one more time, you can control who sees what. At Gentreo, our mission is really quite simple. We want to make estate planning easy. We want to make it accessible and affordable for every family. Everyone can do estate planning, and everyone needs to do estate planning. We're legally binding in all 50 states, so we make it easy to create the documents. We're built for real life, yearly versus a one and done, if you will. You can update these documents at any time. So when those life milestones happen, when you get married, when you have children or adopt a child, when you buy a new home, you can immediately go in and update your documents at any time. And everything is stored securely, so it's there when life happens. And if you get stuck, our team's here to help. You can use the platform. Now, we're not a law firm. We don't provide legal advice, but we can help you navigate and process the process and the resources. We have coaches available for you. So the simplest next step is go to that link we talked about earlier, gentreo.com / Harvard FCU, and start your plan. Start with one document or build the full plan. The important thing is that you don't wait for a crisis to be the moment that you realize you need this. I'll also share your documents do need to be notarized, so create those documents and then use Harvard FCU's resources. Go in and have them notarized and then upload them into that digital vault and share them with the folks who need access so that in a time of crisis or when something happens, everybody knows where to go. Everybody can access the documents and everybody has clarity on what your wishes and choices are to protect your assets, to protect them. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today so we could introduce Gentreo to you. Certainly, if you want to follow up with us, you can reach us at info@gentreo.com. And I will kick it back to our friends at Harvard.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you to Jake. And now we're going to, let's see, I want to talk about some Green Path. So if you are currently in a situation where you feel like you are struggling to learn about what the next steps are in terms of her financial wellness, whether it's credit, debt, budget, housing, or any kind of federal student loan counseling, GreenPath is an additional partner where you can reach out and get specific help for your specific situation. And you can visit that link on our screen right now, harvardfcu.org/greenpath. And again, I do want to ask everyone to take our survey and let us know how you liked this webinar. And we will have a portion for Q&A at the end of this webinar right now, where you can ask Natalie or Jake any questions about Gentreo or estate planning. We do have quite a bit of time left, so please ask those questions. I see some coming in the queue, oh, in the chat right now. That's Ty. But we'll keep going. And we also have Savvy Money, which with Savvy Money, you'll get daily updates, real-time alerts, personalized tips, and special offers to help with your credit, all with no impact to your credit score. Um, so if you are interested in improving your credit score or kind of making some updates as you wind down the years and you're making your New Year's resolutions for what you want for 2026, maybe building your credit score is one of those options. Please visit Savvy Money, harvardfcu.org/digital banking/Savvy Money to learn more. And we also have a new branch at One Brigham Circle at 1614 Tremont Street. Parking is available, and we are more than happy to see you. As a full disclaimer, this presentation has been a general overview only and it has been for educational purposes. It is not intended to be or should not be constructed as tax, legal, or investment advice. You should always contact a certified advisor for your specific situation. And we do have some upcoming webinars, Getting Out of Debt on January 13th at noon, as well as Romance Scams coming up on February 10th at noon. And if you are looking to sign up, visit harvardfcu.org/workshops. All right, so we are at the Let's Keep in Touch phase. If there are any questions in the Q&A, please feel free to put them in now, and we'll be more than happy to help. Um, if nothing comes up, let's see. Jake, do you want to grab one of the possible questions that I submitted ahead that you feel like maybe we could ask or
Yeah, absolutely. We can, I know there was some pre-submitted questions that we can run through, a lot of them having to do with trusts. First off, thank you again for having us on here. I am interested in that romance scams webinar because that's something that we talk a little bit about too on our webinar series and podcasts, and holiday season's a big time for that, so that should be interesting.
definitely.
So yeah, we have, we'll wait for some more questions to come in, but in the meantime, we did get some pre-submitted questions, a lot of them having to do with trust. So I can talk for a brief moment about, trust and a little more context because we wanted to keep it a little more simple just for the sake of this webinar. But there's a lot of confusion between, the difference between a trust and a will. Like we mentioned, a will outlines what happens with your assets after you pass away, after death. And a trust can help manage and distribute these assets during life and after death. The biggest factor that differentiates the two is privacy. A will always go through what's called probate. If you've had to already experience probate, I'm sorry, it's not a process we hope that a lot of people have to go through. Um, and because a will goes through probate, which is a court procedure, that means it becomes a public document. A trust does not have to go through probate. So if privacy is a big factor to you, a trust can be a very viable option for maintaining that privacy. Other questions about trusts, can you put your home into a trust if there's still a mortgage on it? Many homeowners will place their home into a trust while the mortgage remains, but additional steps are often involved. So it's important to understand how a trust and a mortgage interact. And the best way to do that would be to contact like your mortgage holder before creating your trust, but it is absolutely possible. Um, is it worth putting your home into a trust? For some people, placing your home into a trust can support goals like continuity. And like again, it helps your family to avoid probate. It gives you that sense of privacy, ease of administration. But whether it makes sense depends on individual circumstances and goals. So while it's easy with Gentreo to create the living trust, and I will emphasize Gentreo only provides a living or revocable trust because there's over 60 different kinds of trusts. We specialize in that living revocable trust. Remember that you must fund the trust with assets. So for example, be prepared to redeed your home, rename your assets into the name of the trust. Um, Another question we get is if you have a trust, do you also need a will? It depends again on the situation. So with a trust, you don't exactly have that same ability like you would with a will to name things like guardianship for your minor children or give specific wishes. Um, so you could have a will at the same time as a trust, just to make sure you cover everything. What There is an additional document that, with Gentreo, it's automatically created with your revocable trust. It's called a pour over will. And the idea of a pour over will is that you get the opportunity to do these important things like name a guardian to your minor children, name specific gifts that you want to be distributed. But then the idea of the pour over will is that any assets that aren't already transferred into the trust, they're poured over automatically into the trust to help fund it. Um, in addition to, so it's those specific gifts that you wanted first, those are dealt with first, but then anything remaining will be automatically poured over into the trust. And again, this is automatically created when you create the Gentreo revocable trust. Talking a little more about the difference between the revocable and irrevocable, because those are the big two main types of trusts. Um, and this touches on long-term care, which a lot of people have questions when it comes to a trust. So addressing long-term care, you have to create the irrevocable trust, and we don't offer that because it's an incredibly complex process. Um, the living trust does not help with the long-term care planning, so it's worth consulting with an attorney if you want the irrevocable. I should emphasize that, the main difference between revocable and irrevocable is that with a revocable trust, if you were to put something into the trust, you can pull it back out. There's um, some leeway there in what can go in, what can come out. But with an irrevocable trust, and sometimes people have trouble understanding this, so that's why we don't really deal with it. Once something's in an irrevocable trust, it's no longer yours. It is in the trust, it's locked in there. You cannot touch it. So, it's a much more complex process. So for that, it's definitely worth contacting an attorney to work with them. What else
Okay,
in terms of
Jake, can I ask about that? What would
yeah, absolutely.
be the reason why someone would choose the revocable versus an irrevocable trust? If they're like, what's
So
the
a lot of it comes to Medicaid planning, long-term care planning. The irrevocable trust is a very powerful tool when it comes to that type of care planning. But like I said, I don't want to speak too much on it because it is something that Gentry doesn't do too much of, and it's worth talking to an attorney if you have additional questions. But it's a tool used for um, Medicaid and long-term planning. So if that's something that's becoming a part of your life, then it's worth contacting an attorney for the construction of an irrevocable trust.
got it?
I'll give you a quick example.
Yeah.
So my parents are aging, and they own what we refer to as the home place. It's literally where my maternal grandmother was born and raised, built in the late 1800s. So obviously, sentimental and of great emotional value and historical value to our family. They don't want to be in a position for that property to be caught up in probate, and they certainly want to protect that asset from um, any type of seizure with regard to Medicaid or something along those lines. So they are putting that piece of property into an irrevocable trust.
Mm, okay, makes sense. Thank you, both of you. I don't see any other questions coming in, so I think this is a good place to stop here. Thank you, Natalie, for joining us and presenting. I know it's cold this holiday season, and we're all winding down for the year, but I do appreciate you coming in and showing up. Jake, as well, I appreciate you handling the Q&A, handling questions, and I want to wish you both a very cheerful and happy holiday season from Harvard FCU
Terrence,
to you.
if I could interject
Yes.
before we close, I do see one question that just came up
Oh,
in
yeah.
our Q&A. Jake, could you have both types of trust? And
Yeah.
then when you finish with that, I'd love just one more statement.
Yeah, so you can have both types of trust. Again, they're just different types for different purposes. So again, revocable trusts are flexible and can be changed during life, while irrevocable trusts are typically more restrictive, but serve, different long-term planning goals. So the living trust is, for avoiding probate, that privacy, transferring assets into the trust to help you maintain that privacy as that trust is not probated. The irrevocable trust is typically for that long-term and tax planning purposes, um, but should be done with the help of an attorney. As again, once the assets are transferred into that trust, it's extremely difficult to pull them back out. And again, we have, just because most of these questions were on trust. There's other questions about things not related to the trust. We have so many resources. So if you have any questions, feel free to visit our resource center or email us again, info@gentreo.com. We put a huge emphasis on education. So while we can't give you the legal advice again, we can absolutely drive you nuts with how much information we can give you on all these things so you can thoroughly and clearly understand all the different choices that you have in front of you.
And
Awesome.
remember, most families struggle not because they don't love each other, but because they lacked clarity. Um, So I encourage you to think about it this way. Estate planning is a quiet and responsible gift for you and your loved ones. You don't have to do everything today, you just have to start. And so, again, take advantage, as Jake said, of the resources that we have available at gentreo.com and that Harvard FCU has available. But again, thank you so much, Terrence and Ty, for the time, and all of you who have joined us. We wish you a very happy holidays.
Thank you. And that's the end. All right, let me see.